all of our people in?
I can't let them in because you're the host.
How am I the host?
Because I switched it so you could do live.
Admit all. Got it. Okay, make yourself the host again. I have to do it. Did I do it? Okay. Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started here in just a second. Thank you all for joining us. Okay, I think we're ready to go. All right, well, thank you all for joining us today in the Bossier Chamber's virtual meet and greet with the candidates. It is election season in Bossier City, and all of the candidates have been invited to participate in today's virtual meet and greet and have been asked just to communicate three things, very, very simple, just so that you can get to know them a little bit better. And so we've asked them to all do a full introduction of themselves, to tell us why they are running and what are their goals for the next 4 years. This morning, we will begin with the mayoral candidates, and this afternoon, join us again at 1 o'clock and when we have all of the city council candidates. And so we will be sharing these introductions through the Chamber's website, newsletter, and social media platforms until Election Day on March 20th, as well as I believe we are on Facebook Live. And so we are live today, and if anyone can join us through Facebook Live and see it in that format, they'll be able to see that as well. So the only housekeeping that I have is that if you have any questions for the candidates, to please submit your questions in the chat box or on the Facebook Live comments section. And the chat box is, if you hover over the lower part of your computer screen, you'll see a little quote box that says chat, and that's where you put your questions. And for those that are joining us on Facebook Live, if you will put your questions in the comments, and we will do our best to get to all of those questions, I will be moderating those. So now let us begin with our first candidate for today. It is my pleasure to introduce the first mayor candidate, who happens to be the incumbent, Lorenz Lowe Walker. Mayor?
Good morning, all. I appreciate, first of all, the Chamber taking the initiative to give all the candidates an opportunity to share it, what some of their plans are and intentions are. As most of y'all know, I've been with the city now 33 years in various capacities. And over these 33 years, I've learned a great deal about this city, and I've watched it grow from a small community to a very progressive community. We have things going for us in this city and parish that most parishes do not have. And I'm just looking forward to continuing as mayor because, first of all, I really enjoy the job. Secondly, I'm in good health and I feel up to the job. If I didn't think so, I wouldn't be doing this. But I want to bring my 33 years of experience to bear to continue all the good things we've got going for us here in Bossier City. We've got quality of life jobs. We've got economic development initiatives. We got several infrastructure projects. Uh, and these things take a while, and I don't want to have them not be finished in a timely manner. So I want to stick with it to make sure we get these projects completed. Uh, I think perhaps some people think we should just grow to be bigger, but we're not. I don't look at it that way. I think we should grow on a controlled growth. So as we grow, we don't make it a burden to the existing taxpayers. In other words, when you annex a subdivision or whatever, they're entitled to the same police service, fire service, attention to streets and drainage as the existing citizens do. But I don't want to make it a burden on the existing citizens. So we don't annex unless it makes perfectly good sense. So we have that controlled growth. And that said, we're very, very fortunate that the way we do things here in Bossier City and Bossier Parish, we're fortunate to have businesses come to us wanting to be a part of it. And the current estimate is to the LSU and the Secretary of State is our population now is somewhere north of 70,000. I think the latest I had of about a year ago, we were around 70,400, something like that. Of course, the census is in progress, and we'll know for sure what that count is pretty soon. But we are a growing city, and we're growing well. And I think this current weather phenomenon that we've just been through is just a testimony to how good things are going and how we do things in our city and in our parish. We've handled this with absolute minimum injuries to our citizens and to our staff who had to get out in this inclement weather, and just have done a superior job. So bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, is we got a good thing going. I want to bring my 33 years of experience to continue the good things we got going and see these many projects which are in progress completed in a timely manner. And that said, I should stress that public safety is going to continue to be my top priority. I've been saying that for this past 16 years while I've been there. That has not changed, and we're fortunate to have what I think is the best public safety in the whole state. We've got a superior fire department and an equally good police department, and we're extremely fortunate that we do have the public safety that we enjoy. So we have excellent working relationships with the Barksdale Air Force Base, and they with us. They had a little situation with the water. They needed additional water, and we've been able to provide that great military installation of water they needed to see them through. We've been able to assist our friends over in Shreveport who had some availability of potable water issues. We've been able to supply that to them. So we have just been good neighbors and good citizens. And that's just a general brief overview, and I'll be happy to take any questions when the time is appropriate.
Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate that introduction and you taking the time to be with us. If you have any questions for our incumbent candidate for the March 20th election for mayor of Bossier City, please submit those questions in the chat box. And if you're joining us on Facebook Live, you could put those in the comment section. We do have some questions that have been submitted. And I would like to ask this question. Some people in our community say that we have traffic problems. What do you think, and how would you mitigate those concerns or change the situation?
Well, we do in fact have traffic issues, and have, as long as I can remember. Most people will know that we were a very small village some 100 years ago, and the railroads were here before the town grew to be the size it is now. So we got railroads going east, west, and north and south that have controlled our growth patterns for many, many years. So we got what I call an hourglass figure. We got Westgate and Barksdale, we're less than a quarter mile out to the Red River, and we got the 22,000 square acres out in Barksdale. It takes a good chunk on the east side of town. and then continuing the Red River up. We pinched in there, so I call that an hourglass figure. And then when you put on top of that the railroad system, who won't hesitate in a minute to say they were here before we were, and they're not going away. But what we have done to mitigate it, of course, things such as the Teague Parkway, now continuing it as the Walter O. Bigby Parkway. The first phase of that is now complete, and we're starting the second phase, which it's a long-term project. We've been working for 20 years, but it'll take about 3 more years before it's usable. But when completed, we'll be able to go all the way from as far as Sligo Road and Parkway High School and south, all the way up through town, north towards I-220 and I-49 on north, all the way to Texarkana, without having to stop for a railroad, for a train rather. And secondly, we're continuing to do such things as build new east-west arteries, such as the Innovation Drive that we've recently completed, and it's helping alleviate some of the traffic on Airline Drive. We are upgrading Coleman Street next to downtown East Bank District. We're working with the parish for a new entry into Barksdale Air Force Base there, the interchange of I-220 and I-220. We're looking at widening Swan Lake Road again in conjunction with the parish, doing a great job adding 2 more lanes there, east and west. We're also looking at working with the state to maybe add some additional lanes under the Benton Road going north up there. So we're doing a lot of things to improve the flow of traffic. We've had our traffic engineering do a synchronizing of our lights, but we're not totally satisfied with that. So we've called in a professional firm, see if we can't complete a flow of traffic with a smoother transition from red light to red light. So we'll see if we can't tweak that system to make the flow a little bit better. But a lot of parishes, about 50 parishes in the state, would die to have the traffic problems we've got, because they're dying on the vine for lack of the traffic and the people and the businesses. But yes, we have problems, but we're working them hard, and we're seeing some relief. But I would be misleading to say that we're not ever gonna have problems. Most studies that I've seen done of our areas say that for the most part, you can get anywhere in this community within 20 minutes or so. And that's commenting on a lot of these studies that we are, in fact, even with the traffic we got, we can get around pretty quickly in the city. But it is a problem area that we will continue to give a lot of attention to.
Thank you, sir. We do have a question in the chat box. And that question is, if you could change one thing in our zoning code, what would it be and why?
Well, it's a little difficult to pick any one thing. I think with our Metropolitan Planning Commission, which does not come directly under the city, as most people know, they work for a board they're responsible to. But that said, we work with them daily as good partners, and they, I think, have done a good job of ensuring that the way our city does grow is in a manner, for example, that we don't encroach on Barksdale Air Force Base. A lot of communities have lost military installations because they let the community build under the flight patterns and those sorts of things. Our MPC has rigidly followed the decibel ratings and zones where you can construct homes and businesses and so on. So I would be hard pressed to say any one thing that I think they could improve on. They're very responsive, and they work well with my administration. I guess everything can be improved, but I think they're doing a very, very good job.
Can you share with us, as the largest municipality in Bossier Parish, how do we work with the parish, and how has that relationship been, and what are your goals for the future with that?
I'd say that our relationship with the parish is simply outstanding. The leadership that we've got at the parish level has been outstanding. The jurors there working with us, and particularly their administrator, Bill Alton, he and I have communicated 3 or 4 times every week on issues, but I don't think we could ask for better partners than what we have with our Bossier Parish Police Jury, and I expect that to continue. There'll be some changes as they do every election cycle, but I think the relationship is excellent and it's candid and it's mutually beneficial, and I expect that to continue as is.
There's a follow-up question to the traffic question, and it's in our Facebook live comments, and it's about Airline Drive and the heavy traffic there. And do we plan, or are there any plans to widen Airline Drive?
I would say no, there aren't any plans other than what we've done. It's being talked about an additional, no, let me just say there's no specific plan right at this point to widen Airline Drive. It'd just be cost prohibitive. I wish I could say differently, but it just doesn't seem likely that we will be able to widen it. That said, we continue to do such things as we've put in the codes that when we have businesses come in, if there's three businesses come in co-located, that we control the number of curb cuts going into those businesses and those sorts of restraints so that we can control the flow and slow down the traffic due to excessive curb cuts, those sorts of things. Tweaking the light system, which is what we've done, I've already alluded to, that has helped. So there are some things that we can do, but it's difficult, and I don't see any major project to widen Airline Drive at this point.
So with the last few minutes that we have, because I don't think I see any additional questions, is just to humanize it just a little bit. Can you share with us, not necessarily specific, but what neighborhood you live in or area of town you live in? Why did you choose that area? And what are your favorite places that you like to spend time in or at within our city?
Well, I became a Bossier resident in 1968 when I bought a home there in South Bossier, and I was a South Bossier resident for 40 years. When they closed the south gate to Barksdale, it was no longer as convenient for me as a military person to live there. And I moved to Stonebridge about 10 years ago. It's an outstanding community. And so that is my current residence. And as far as what I like to do, I like coming to work. Some people golf, some people fish. I find my satisfaction in work. I don't retire very well. So coming to work, working with the city of Bossier City and with the great business and civic leaders we got going, the outstanding people from the base we have, our excellent relationship with the elected officials and our neighbors, all those things I find personal satisfaction. So I hate to admit it, but I'm a workaholic and I like coming to work from Bossier City.
And we do have an additional question, and our time is limited, but I think this is an important question that needs to be asked for the development of Bossier City and our business community. Are there any, oh wait, here we go. Have there been any updates to the large planned developments around and near the South Bossier Brookshires Arena? Can you give us what can we expect in the next 4 years for any planned developments for South Bossier in that area?
Well, as you know, business growth is depending on the businesses themselves. We might say we want a Target to come to town or whatever. We could say we want a hotel to be built next to the arena, those sorts of things. But those decisions are made by those companies, and they got to be profitable. The city doesn't go out to subsidize these sorts of activities by building things. That's a decision made by these businesses. And so we cannot control that. But what we have had planned is a development down close to the arena, which has been involved in litigation for some time and is still involved, so I can't comment on that in any detail, but suffice it to say, we are following the mandates have been given that the way we proceed in regard to that and the timeline, and we're right on schedule to do all that. And if that were to come to pass, that would be a significant growth in that area. However, the other participants in this lawsuit, there are certain initiatives that they would have to take. Monies have been set aside to support that. It's in escrow for it, if that ever happened, but really can't come in much beyond that because it's a legal issue.
Thank you, sir. Well, that is the time that we have allotted for your introduction to our community and our residents and our business community. Mayor Walker, could you share with us if there are any additional questions that folks would like to ask of you specifically? How could they contact you? What is the best way through your campaign to contact you? Or is it okay for them to ask questions on the Facebook feed and you and or your campaign would answer them there? How can people connect with you for questions?
Well, let me get my phone here. We've got my private line because I don't like to use the city line for that. Let me give them my phone number just 1 second. Okay. If it's a business related thing, excuse me, feel free just to contact their city hall, 741-8501. But if it has to do with anything else that they personally want to talk to me about, if it's political, I would prefer that they call me at 349-9182. I don't want to discuss political stuff on my city phone, but of course they can email me at any time. And I think we have a record of being very responsive to citizens' requests. And if they have any issues, I'd be glad to hear from them and we'll address them.
Thank you, sir. We really appreciate your time today, and thank you for giving us 20 minutes of your time for our residents in the business community to be able to get this introduction for your election. Good luck to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, and I thank the Chamber for this initiative and helping the citizens of Bossier City become more involved and aware of the political process. And I would simply close by saying, regardless of who you plan to vote for, go and exercise your right to vote. We've earned it. Let's take advantage of it. Early voting is on March the 6th, the election on March 20th. So I just urge everybody to go out and vote for the candidate of their choice.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, well, we have in our schedule today for 1020, we have two candidates for mayor today. And the second mayoral candidate is Tommy Chandler. Unfortunately, I received an email first thing this morning that he will not be able to join us for our virtual meet and greet. So unless something has changed and he might be on an iPhone, I do not think we have our second candidate with us today. I'll wait just a moment to see. Okay, well then that concludes our candidate interviews for our mayor candidates, and we greatly appreciate the participation, and just join us again this afternoon at 1 o'clock as we will meet with all of the city council candidates. We have 2 districts and the at-large candidates. So, and that is a completely separate Zoom link, and we will be doing that Facebook Live as well. So thank you all for joining us this morning to meet the mayor candidates, and we will see you this afternoon.